everybody. Welcome to Three Questions. This is Matt Heller, and I'm the founder of Performance Optimist Consulting. And Three Questions is where I get to ask three questions of a guest, they get to ask three questions of me, and then we just see where the conversation goes. We have no idea what those questions are going to be when we start, so all of our answers are unrehearsed and unprepared. Today, I am tremendously excited to welcome Ashley Adams to the call. Ashley works for Human Resources at Dollywood, and Ashley and I have known each other for a number of years through IAPA and also at Dollywood. And Ashley, if you wouldn't mind just saying hello and tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Hello, my name is Ashley Adams, as you just said. I do work at Human Resources, actually at our new resort, Dollywood's Dreammore Resort. Still very connected to Dollywood Human Resources. Over my tenure with the company, I actually started on the world famous roller coaster, the Thunderhead, the wooden coaster. So if you've ever been on that, let the thunder roll. And then I kind of transitioned into some different roles, the Mountain Sidewiner, which is a fun water ride. I was a dancing ballerina elephant in a Christmas parade. And then spent some time in marketing and public relations, really fun. And now back to HR. I didn't say that earlier, but I started in HR part-time when I did the Thunderhead as well. So full circle with the Dollywood company.
Good, that's awesome. And can you talk a little bit about your time with IAPA as well?
Yes, I was a show ambassador probably for 5 different years. I think it was about 5. Met a lot of great people with the show ambassador program, as well as people like yourself and other people that just really were mentors to us and poured into us and made sure we were on this straight path, but looking forward to our future. But the show ambassador program, I think, was really a pivotal moment for me because it really challenged me to get outside my comfort zone, see what was outside kind of the Dollywood world that I lived in. So if young people are watching this, I definitely encourage you, apply for the show ambassador program. It will be great if you're wanting a long-term career in this industry.
Awesome. Yeah, and there's a lot of people that have been in that program that have gone on to do, be really, really successful in the industry. So it's a great stepping stone and springboard, I think.
I agree. So
awesome. Yay. So are you ready to jump into the questions?
I am.
All right, bring it. Why don't you go first?
Okay. So my first question is, let's say you have a leader that's a pretty good leader, but they're really not ready for the next step. They might have applied for the next step, think they're ready for the next step, but they're just not there. And honestly, they may not ever be there. So how do you truly be honest with them, keep them motivated, and also keep them around?
Oh, it's a good question. It's funny because I was just talking to somebody about this recently, about people's capacity, right? And you mentioned that there might be a leader that is not quite ready to take the next step, and maybe they never will be. And I think, certain people have a certain level that they're going to reach. And, some people may have, be going for years and years and years and learning new things and getting better and better. And then some people are going to kind of get to a plateau, and that may be where they kind of level off. So I think the big thing is to really, truly be honest with them. First of all, you have to have a set of expectations that you need or that you have for a leader. And if you have that set of expectations, then you can say this is how you are meeting them, or you're not meeting them, or maybe in one area you're exceeding, and this is why we want to keep you around, but these other areas we really need you to work on. So that set of expectations is really critical to have for those conversations. And then I think you have to continually coach them and find out kind of where they are. Are they feeling like this is not something they want to be doing? Are they really, really uncomfortable? And if they are, maybe this isn't the right role for them. Maybe they would rather be doing something else. And that, I think, kind of leads into your, part of your question about how do you keep them happy? How do you keep them there? Well, maybe if they weren't supposed to be in a leadership role in the first place, maybe there's someplace else, maybe an individual contributor role that they would be better suited. I know that you've worked with people, and I've worked with people that are fantastic, and they're great, and they're an asset to the company, but they're just not in the right role. They're not in the right place. So I think with any of those folks, you kind of have to do a little digging and find out, okay, what is it they are truly good at? Where do they truly want to be? How can I truly help them get there? Maybe they aren't aware of some of the opportunities that a large company like Dollywood has. When I was at Universal, one of the things we used to say to people is, you may be starting off in food service, you may be starting off in merchandise, but this is like a small city, and there are so many different positions. If you really want to be, if you've got, aspirations of being in the medical field, we have EMTs here. We have people who work in the legal side of things. We have people that, work in marketing. So don't feel like you're stuck someplace. help us help you figure out where we can best use your talents. So does that kind of answer your question about kind of how to keep them?
It does. I think it really goes back just to complete honesty. It does. So my wheels are turning. I was thinking of okay.
Yeah. And I think that's where we tend not to be honest, unfortunately, is when we see people that aren't really.
You're frozen.
Am I frozen? I'm sorry. Am I back?
You're kind of back.
Okay.
Yes.
It might just be an internet connection issue. Thank you for letting me know. But when we have somebody that is, kind of at a plateau and we don't really know what to do with them, maybe moving up isn't the best trajectory, and maybe that's the only thing we know of either, or two. So we have to think about what's the best thing for them. So
that's true. That's true.
Good. So are you ready for your first question?
Yes.
All right.
Reluctantly.
What's that?
I love surprises, but this is just freaking me out.
You're going to be great at this. All right, here we go. So I've known you for a number of years, and I think anybody who knows you and anybody who's probably just met you, even watching you on here, knows that you're a positive person. Very, very positive in your outlook, and I'm sure that has served you well as a leader in all your different positions. But I'd like to look at it the other way. Has there ever been a time when your positivity has had to be pulled back, or that you felt like that was more of kind of not a weakness, but something that you had to kind of downplay in order to be successful in a certain area or with a certain person?
That's a really good question. So I think I am more of an optimist in most areas or instances of my life, but I just feel life is such a gift. We should treat it as such. But I think sometimes if you can be over the top positive, especially if it's insincere, I think people just read insincerity and they don't appreciate it. They don't want a part of it. And once they see you as that, I think it's really hard to get back on the train where you're a trusted person. They value your opinion. So they expect a lot of times for you to come with a positive angle when you're answering questions or in meetings. But sometimes if you're just over the top, rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns, people don't appreciate that, especially when it just may take a different toll. Sometimes as much as you want to be positive, or when I'm sitting in meetings and I hear all this collaborative effort and I'm I just wish they'd look at something differently. Sometimes that's not the right place to bring it up. It might be one-on-one conversations later to kind of that challenge, or just, through conversation to bring it up to maybe look at it a different angle. But I think being not positive is just make sure the balance is that you have sincerity with that. There's not a specific, instance that's come into my mind, but now that I'm back in human resources, I've been in here for a couple years, and really honest conversations have been such a learning experience for me. I never thought I would be the one to deliver maybe bad news or hard news sometimes. But really, when you look at hard news as really just a level of trust, that first of all, that I care about somebody, most importantly, to be honest with them, to be truthful with them, that it's not sugarcoating it with positivity, but at the end of the conversation, you can wrap it up and you can kind of point in something where you do see something that is promising for their future. Whether you're terminating someone or you're delivering a written reminder or something to someone, when you already have that relationship previously, it makes those hard conversations so much easier because they know in your heart you care about them. And so I guess that's sometimes really hard to just be positive because terminations are not always positive. But if we're not honest with them, then we're not being fair to them or their future employer.
I totally agree. Absolutely agree. And I think there's kind of in what I'm hearing you say, there's ways to be positive even when it's a tough situation. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that comes from honesty. And I love what you said about, I care enough to be honest with you, and I think that's something that a lot of leaders really need to embrace, Mm-hmm. Awesome. Very good. So you have another question for me?
I do. This is actually from one of your previous 3 questions, and I'm sorry I don't remember the gentleman you were speaking with, but you specifically said you love to speak to high-level leadership or executives because you can take such a deep dive with them. So someone that's definitely not in a high executive level position, what do you think that level would want to communicate to my level, or maybe future leaders of the company or the industry? what do you, like, secrets do you think that they would want you to know, or secrets you can share with us, stuff that they would want you to know, what they would want us to be focusing on at this kind of stage in our life? Just any insight that you could provide with that.
So what are some of the, if I just want to make sure I understand the question, what are some of the sort of the unsaid things from the executive leaders that you think that maybe they want you to know? Is that kind of thing?
Maybe unsaid to us, but since you love these conversations with high leaders, like, what have you picked up on that would be beneficial for people, that possibly want to be in their spot one day?
Sure. Well, I think with a lot of the folks that I get to work with, they're very, very busy. And I think, so it's kind of a double-edged thing. So people that are kind of new in their role don't have a lot of confidence in their role sometimes, and they don't really know what to ask for, and they don't really know what it is that they need. But I think the executives sometimes are so busy that they would just love it if people would just tell them what they needed. You know what I mean? So, but again, it's kind of double-edged because people may not know what they need yet. And, it's kind of like the you don't know what you don't know type of thing. So I think that's one of the things is that they would just love it if people could help them help, if you could help the executive help you, kind of thing is one of the things I get from them. I also think that while I think they recognize that it's not going to happen overnight, I definitely think that they wish that folks at lower levels had a greater sense of the big picture, which is kind of their job, you know what I mean? But the more you have an idea of the bigger picture, like you've been in HR and you've been in different departments and now you're back in HR, so you have a really good understanding of how all those things fit together. A lot of younger leaders and people who are newer to an organization don't have that perspective. And sometimes when you sit with the more executive leaders, they're like, well, why don't they get it? Well, they don't have the amount of experience that you do. They haven't had the opportunity to see how all these things fit together or don't fit together. And that can cause some friction and tension because they don't see why, a younger person doesn't get it. And I think one of the things that executives sometimes forget is just how long it takes to develop judgment and just how long it takes to develop a sense of what's right and what's wrong in the corporate and business setting. And like you said, relationships and navigating those relationships can take a long time to figure out how to do that. So that, I think from an executive standpoint, I think they would love that. And sometimes I think they forget how long it's taken them to get there, because we've all done this where something is second nature to us, but it's not something second nature to somebody else. We're like, why don't they get it? Well, how can they possibly not understand? But there's just sometimes that divide, or they've been in that position long enough where it's second nature to them, and it's just not to somebody else. So, is that how? Is that
what we were talking about the last time we were together?
Right? Yeah.
Do you remember that conversation?
At lunch? Yes. Yeah.
That makes total sense. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. I guess it goes back to kind of the art of managing up as well. That the bad thing is, like, you want to anticipate their needs, you really want to serve them, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I thought this is what they needed and it was wrong, so now I put a burden on them, and I never want to be a burden. So it's just interesting. Thanks for the insight.
Absolutely. Well, and I think one of the things also that happens when you move up to different positions is, there's fewer and fewer of them, and there's more and more of everybody else, whether it's their second level leaders or it's the front line. And so I really think a lot of them struggle with, what do these people want? And because again, they're very busy, they try to compartmentalize things and try to make things very efficient. And they say, well, okay, so, the front line wants, X, so we're going to give them X. Well, that's not everybody in the front line. You know what I mean? So sometimes trying to be efficient with those type of things can actually backfire a little bit. But again, I think if like you said, the managing up piece, if we can, have more of those open conversations, then some of those things could get figured out maybe a little bit easier. So I have a question for you related to that. So
look at us thinking all alike.
Thinking of, and this is a bonus question. This is like 3A. Thinking of where you are now, and you have a frontline associate. What kind of things do you wish they knew, or they kind of had a perspective on?
I've honestly been thinking about this a lot lately. And sometimes I get frustrated, sometimes within conversations, and I'm transitioning out of frustration into no one told them this, or I put it back on us. We
Mm,
didn't communicate, so how do we expect them to know? Because
exactly.
so often I think we sit in, maybe high level staff meetings or one-on-one behind door meetings, and then we never talk about really our expectation. And then I even have had leaders tell me before, I've been guilty of it before, like, why don't they know? But I just go back to, we didn't tell them. And so it kind of a flip side of that, what I wish they would know, and I think it goes back to what you just said, is the judgment, which does take a long time to develop, because sometimes you hear stuff or you see stuff and you're like, that is not good. We shouldn't share that.
Right.
So then it really involves into a coaching conversation to help make them successful the next time. But then on the flip side, we have a new rising leader I'm thinking about in one of our departments. And she is just so pleasant. I was so glad when I heard recently that she was getting promoted. And I was actually manager on duty one night and just had the opportunity to talk to her for a few minutes. And I was just like, so tell me how you always remain just so calm. I mean, the front desk in a hotel resort, it can be high stress.
Right.
Everybody thinks you should have all the answers, just like a theme park. But she just took a moment when I was kind of drilling her. She took a deep breath and she just said, Ashley, we can just never, ever give wrong information. It's so important for us to communicate the right things. And I thought, if I could bubble that up and teach everybody, and she is very young in her career, she's very eager to learn, but she already recognizes the importance of, we don't make stuff up, that judgment is everything with what you're communicating to the guests, but also being very professional, even when it's chaos behind the scenes. And so I wish people would know that, but I do see that some of our rising leaders are already processing that very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody learns different speeds and different rates. So I totally understand. But I think the judgment piece, which I don't think you can necessarily teach, it just evolves from experience.
Right. Well, I think you can put people in positions where you can allow them to make a judgment and then kind of coach them afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. Say, did that work? Did it not work? That kind of thing, and coach them afterwards. But I think you're right. They're gonna come to the conclusion they're on their own based on the circumstances, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So good. So I think it's time for me to ask you another question. I'm going to anyway. Sure. This is actually one of my official ones. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
See, okay. So taking everything that you know about the attractions business and the theme park world, you're going to open your own park called Ashley Wood. Okay.
Now, did I get a big sign?
What's that? It's exciting.
Did I get a big sign?
Of course, yes. So what I want you to think about is, again, knowing your experience in this industry, what would make your theme park different and unique from any other property?
Oh, that is such a good question. Most of my career since college has been all with the Dollywood company.
Okay.
So I view that question through the paradigm that I know. I did work with Disney for just a short time at the college program. So I have a little bit of Disney. I do love Disney, but just a little bit for that to pull on. So to be unique, that no one else has, Matt. Oh my goodness. Have you asked anybody else this question before?
Not exactly, no. Somebody asked something similar of me, and I thought, well, I'm gonna.
You're gonna jump Ashley with it.
Yeah.
I think. It has to go back to the people. Everybody can have great rides. Everybody can have amazing food. Everybody can have, the top technology. But then it's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But the people are what makes the difference. I truly believe that Dollywood has that. I think that so many people come back because of this Southern hospitality. But if I had to be different, Dollywood's evolved. So we opened our doors in 1986 as Dollywood. It was Silver Dollar City, Tennessee before that. So it's really evolved, and it was other attractions even previously to that. So if I was just going to start it new, I think, as I've learned from just opening a resort, we're only a couple years old, knowing what I know now about human resources, opening a resort, I would translate that into the theme park world where I knew what all the training needed to be up front. So I think so often right now, we train when we do one of those, oh, we didn't tell you kind of moments, where if we were proactive with training and if we had really good SOPs and we had X, Y, and Z, And even, I know this is time consuming and I don't personally do it, but you're thinking, outside the box. So I think if people had really time to say, like when problems rose up and you could document that and say, this is something I need to include in training. I would never think of this just in, an organic training class. So I think it would have to go back to training. If you're going to start now and build something brand new, it would have to be, I think it would be most beneficial for people that have already lived in this industry, may have opened up a new project, so that they could really go back to square one and say, these are all the things that are about to happen. It's going to be chaos. You're not going to open on time, more than likely. Mm-hmm. When you open, it's not going to be perfect. When you open, the same opening team is probably not going to be the same opening team in a year from now or 2 years from now. It's really, really wearing to open a newer project. And also some people are here for a season so that they want to come be an opening team, and then if they're vendors or something, they're going to move on to their next project. So I'm just thinking about all the learning that really happened in that first 12 months and even more like the first 3 months, that if I would know now and we could go open something else, I'd be like, okay, here's X, Y, and Z what you would have to do. So I think it draws from your experiences now, but the difference would be the approach to opening something new. For Ashley Wood.
For Ashley Wood, of course, yeah. No, yeah. And I really appreciate what you say about the fact that it is about the people and really how to set them up for success. But I think one of the things that I heard in there that might be a little unique in terms of the thought process is just how different people's roles might be. In terms of if you're the opening crew, that's a really tough gig, right? And you may not be here, a year from now or whatever. But just really honing in on what people's really specific, unique skills and roles would be within that organization, and obviously keeping people first, is a great thing. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Can I say something else?
Of course, yes.
So what you just mentioned about like knowing people's skills. So when we organized this opening team, it was people, professionals from all different backgrounds. So it was a lot of new people that you didn't know. So knowing now what all those skills were on that opening team, I wish we could have like zeroed in on those at the beginning, or I would have known like how to utilize them in relationships or training, or even people just to know maybe what my strengths could be. And just, I think it would have been so different if hindsight's always 20/20. But when you really zero in on people's skills and then like, wow, he's really good at that. And then a good, can be semi-perfectionist. So a good learning for me also is that I can't be good at everything, but if you surround people that are really good at stuff, then you all make a stronger team than you could ever imagine just being, 1 or 2 people. So.
Absolutely. And such great insight that you can't be great at everything. That's, I see so many people struggling with that they completely burn themselves out because they're trying to do too many things, and they're trying to do things that they're not good at, and they're putting their energy in the wrong place.
I think putting the energy is in the wrong place because sometimes you want to be really good at something and you just can't. It's not in your skill set. Yeah. So you spend all this time trying to develop your weakness when you should really develop your strengths, because there's other people that are strong with your weakness. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you could spend, a week on your weakness, right, and make this much headway, or you could spend a week on your strength and make this much headway, So you're absolutely right. I love that perspective. Awesome.
Have you heard of Ron Clark? He wrote, I think it's called Move Your Bus. He's like an educator, but he speaks to corporate business worlds. So I'm reading his book right now, and it really focuses on the runners of your organization. Focus on them. You can try to focus on your walkers, but you're going to move like that much. When you focus on runners, you're going to go so much farther. So it's insightful.
Cool. Awesome. I'll have to check that out. All right. I'm ready for my next one. Oh,
so we've kind of already touched on this, but for a new rising leader, how can you teach them everything they need to know, need to be ready for, especially when you have to be a good steward of the financial piece? So I really know that new people come in, you want to teach them all this stuff, you want to grow them, but they're still an hourly person, so they fill an hourly slot that is tied to a budget. And so all these training hours aren't necessarily available. So how do you really make them successful from transitioning kind of from frontline into leadership and pour into them as well?
So this is while they're still in a sort of frontline hourly role, right?
Yeah, like a new leader hourly role, yes.
Got it. So I think part of it is kind of creatively using the budget that you have. And and giving them opportunities to do things that are outside of where they currently are in their role. So one of the things that I know we used to use a lot was cleaning crews, right? If you have a cleaning crew that comes in early, well, you've got the budget already set aside for that. So instead of, one of your leads or supervisors who's already in that leadership role running it, why not, if you've got somebody already that's going to be there for the cleaning crew, give them the opportunity to run it, right? So, set them up for success, give them some guidelines, give them some skills, focus on what they can do to make it a strong cleaning crew, and then let's see how they do, right? So that budget's already there, but now you're giving them an opportunity to see what that's going to be like. And then you also get to evaluate their performance while they're doing that as well. So that's kind of a win-win, right? The other thing is that, again, kind of using the budget creatively, is that it's not always about sending someone to a class. I know from a trainer, right? It's not about just sending to a class to learn something.
Yeah.
But, send them to a meeting, where they're talking about things and if the content is not applicable or if it's too confidential or whatever, then, use good judgment about what meetings you send them to. But, give them an opportunity to see what happens at those levels, right? And then even give them an opportunity to say, hey, at this meeting, we're going to talk about, new guest service. And I know, Ashley, you have some great ideas about guest service. I would love you to share that with the rest of the directors. Oh, what? So now you have a little time to prepare. You go in and you tell them about your ideas for guest service. And so that gives you, an opportunity to kind of practice some presentation skills in front of them. It also gets you to hear what goes on in that meeting. So maybe that's a, just a little bit of time out of your shift that you can use for that development. And then I think it's about just understanding that it's not going to happen all at once. When you said you want to train them on everything, I think, yeah, you do. But like we've talked about before, that's going to take some time. And I think you have to kind of build the foundational skills before you can, you got to learn to walk before you can run. Okay, so what are those walking things that you might identify first? Is it about, just communicating and running a meeting? So again, you've got a meeting that you have with your team. Let somebody on the team run it, right? Or if you have, an incentive program that you're working on, or you've got a party that's coming up, and if you can, give them a little bit of responsibility, you can see how they're going to work in those situations, but you also give them an idea how the company works and how things can play out from the other side of things, either when they're not behind a register or running a ride. So that might just be kind of using the budget a little creatively, but just put them in those little situations where they can start to build some foundational information and judgment, so that they can move when it's time to move into a leadership role. They've got all that stuff sort of under their belt. I think one of the worst things we can do, that we still always do, is say, here's your keys, here's your radio, now go be a leader. You've been promoted. Okay, great. What does that mean? What do I do? How do I communicate with these people? How do I get them to do what I need them to do? We haven't set them up for success. So, taking the time to do that beforehand, I think, is critical. One of the things that I talked about last year in my IAPA session, and I'm trying to get people to encouraging people to do this, is let's say that you're looking for your supervisor crew for 2000. Well, we're in 2017 right now, right? So don't look for your crew in 2017 for 2017. Start now for 2018, right? Even 2019. Granted, I know it's tough sometimes to keep people for that long, but, if you start putting people sort of on a path now, then when it comes, the beginning of 2018, you've got a much better idea of who can fill those roles than if you waited until just before the summer starts. So I think it's getting people to kind of think of it more as a long-term commitment than just hey, you're back this summer, you're going to be our lead.
Right. That's a good point, because especially if they could kind of think about it for a while and let it resonate with them, like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Then there's that fine art of when you get the keys, you get the radio, you're like, now you're the boss, but you can't be bossy. So
right.
Then that even learning that humility component. So I think if you did kind of prep them beforehand, that might really help them approach better.
I think you bring up a great thing about humility, that if people think that the job is easier than it is, then they start to kind of think, well, I can do this, right? Well, yeah, just like that. I can do this. And they start to make more mistakes because they're overconfident.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, I think I have one more for you. Is that right? All right. So, I know you've done a number of different things there at Dollywood, but I want you to think about, and if you have this already, think about your ultimate career goal, where you want to go. So, if you have a career goal, that's fantastic, and I would love to hear what it is and what you're doing now to try to achieve it.
This is going to probably blow some people's mind that are like type A and like, you need to say X, Y, and Z. Mine's a little more vague. So my passion is people. I just really want to invest in people. I want to encourage people. I want to, slightly correct people when they're off course, but it's really being willing to be honest with them. Yeah. And so just growing over the last couple years and just really realizing in my personal life as well as professional life that honesty, I'm always known honesty is a good thing, but just truth telling is such a wonderful thing. And being empowered to truth tell, covered with love and kindness, it's something so beneficial. So if I think of like my career goal, it's just somewhere investing in people, encouraging people. Also, I think people need to know that they have an advocate. There's a lot of children in my life that have come from some really rough backgrounds, and just that they know that somebody believes in them, that they have structure and consistency, a listening ear, someone just for them cheering in their corner. They may not have that in their personal life. So knowing that the people I now work with may have come from similar backgrounds, they just need to know someone loves them and cares about them. And I know that seems so soft, but it truly is just my passion that I do care about people. And so to say it's like this one job, I'm not sure. I think human resources is a good fit for me in that capacity, because so many people think, oh, you're going to the principal's office, human resources, it's so bad. And now that I've been in human resources, it's so much more than that, because we truly are, we want to be a human resource. And that's not just when negative things come. There's so many things that I see with the Dollywood company where we have an employment assistant program that, it's kind of a third party, but HR kind of drives that ship where we try to get people to be involved in giving. And then it's also where we do training programs to try to help equip people and communicate better. And then it's also so much incentives and getting to reward and recognize when things go well, or just appreciating someone because they do a great job. They work really hard every day for us. And so I think it would probably be in the HR world in some capacity. I've started training a little bit more, and I think that I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. Actually, when you and I were talking recently, where both of us just kind of said, like, why is this not common sense, or why is this not so obvious? Yeah. And so I've really started analyzing that differently, where sometimes I feel like I'm speaking the same message over and over, but it might be to a different audience. We don't always hear or learn things the first time we hear them. So training myself to really understand and be okay with saying things twice, and being patient through that process. So it may be something in training, which falls under human resources. So I'm sorry I don't have a specific role for you, but it's vague.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's not always black and white.
That's totally okay. You definitely have a direction, of, and your passion is people. So that could take you many, many different places, right? Mm-hmm. So just supporting people and caring for them. That's fantastic. And I think it'll take you really, really far. I know for a long time, my goal was just to go as far as I could. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know where that would land, but kind of like you, I knew I wanted to be in this industry, and that you want to help and care for people, and that's enough to drive you to the next thing.
It was weird because previously, or even when I was in operations and on the front lines, it was like, do I want to do this forever? I'm not sure I do. Working on the Thunderhead, how much more fun can you get in day to day when you're sending people out to go scream for 90 seconds or whatever it was? But then on the flip side of that, realizing I'm so passionate about the guest experience as well. So I really had a paradigm shift that I'm passionate about the guest experience, and one person could encounter so many guests a day. But on the backside, if I can help equip people, then I might have affected thousands of guests a day. And so it's not about me at all, but just knowing that I do have passion for the guest experience, but looking at it differently. Mm-hmm. And where your guest experience is such as usually a small relationship, where longevity can be a relationship when you're working with these people day in and day out.
Right. And it's kind of about where you put your energy, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So true.
Good. Well, that's all the questions I have. Was that all the questions for you? I think we got them all, right?
I mean, I had more, but we can stop. But here's the fun one.
Okay.
So I'm not musically inclined at all, but I know you are. So if Dolly wanted you to write the beat for a next song, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Wow, that is an incredibly difficult question.
Oh, see, I'm not musically inclined at all, so I wouldn't even know.
Well, but I mean, would it be like a country beat?
Dolly does like all songs, all different kinds of genres of music.
I don't know if this will come out, but I'm going to do it on the little thingy I've got right here. Right? So
get away with that.
Could be something like this. Something simple like that. That Dolly could sing a nice thing over, but it's peppy. It's kind of moves you forward a little bit. So maybe something like that.
Fun, good job. See, right off the cuff. Great job.
That's the first time anybody has asked me to play a beat on the 3 questions. So I appreciate that. That's
awesome.
Awesome.
I mean, you're a drummer, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I figure my brother's not a drummer, but he beats all the time. So I figure if you're a drummer, you probably always got a beat in your head.
It's something. There's something up there rolling around. So I don't know. But awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ashley, today. It was awesome. I'm so glad we got the tech working out. Really, really appreciate your insight. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Matt. It was so much fun.
Stay in the fire.